Good evening. My name is Edward A. Gray, and I am running for United States Senate. I would like to, I will replace Marco Rubio and defeat Val Demings. I see the need for regular Americans to step up and start taking these positions so that we can take our country back. And I really believe that that's going to be my tagline is this is how we take our country back. So join me. This is a live broadcast. Hopefully people will join in. I see there's a lot of problems right now that we have to deal with. The current administration is leaving everybody up in arms with the direction they're taking this country. I think that there's a better way. And since we still have 2 more years before the presidency is up for re-election, unless something else happens, we have to put people in Congress and in Senate to be able to control the direction that they're trying to take us. Now, personally, I think there's a lot of issues that can be addressed. Um, our environment is very important to all of us. I have children who are grown adults now. I have grandchildren, and I'd like to leave them an earth that's as good as, if not better than, the one that we're living on now. When it comes to the climate crisis, just like other crises that we've had to deal with in the past, I think the important thing is that we need to work together and figure out how to solve these problems so that we can together fix these problems. I think that what's happening with people coming in and saying, well, this is what you have to believe and this is what you have to think is not the American way. Americans deserve the respect and expect the government to be open. And that's a key factor is we need to believe that the government is open. So I think a little bit of what we're going to talk about is that openness. Now, I know that there are scientists all over the world that say that this climate crisis is real and that we have what I think 10 years before there's no turning back when we have to cut our carbon emissions and we have to be able to change the way we live and think and breathe, or else the whole world will be lost. And yeah, I appreciate their opinion. On the other side of that coin, there are scientists that believe that there's nothing going on and that this is more of a political ploy. And I think that that's where our problem lies is instead of communicating and working together, we're getting one side saying, this is what you have to do, and this is what you have to believe, and because we know what's best for you, and other people that are just as reputable, just as intelligent, just as learned in all of these areas are saying, no, wait a minute, let's talk about it. We have evidence that it's not exactly what you're saying. These types of issues, and there's a plethora of them, need to be open for discussion so that everybody can participate and come to a fair conclusion for everyone. The idea of taking an entire nation off of what it's reliant on when it comes to our fuel and oil is just ludicrous without having some type of reliable backup system that everybody can naturally turn over to. I don't want to delve into this too much. Let's talk about some other issues. Now, of course, everybody's heard about the Uvalab shooting, and where we saw that after a while, There were almost 400 police standing around for 75 minutes while this gunman was allowed to kill. That's that's unconscionable. In the United States, how is that possible? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered there. And this is one of those issues that I'm saying we need to have open discussions. My stance on the Second Amendment: number one, yes, I am a concealed carry permit holder. I have legally met all the requirements, partially because I went through the Army, so I was easily cleared to get my permit. The Second Amendment to me has always been very simple, and the rights of the people to keep and bear arms, which is one small part of the entire statement, but it's a statement all of its own. The rights of the people to keep and bear arms. It doesn't, it can't be broken down in any other way. We have the right to keep and bear arms. And no, there's no limitations on what type of arms. There's no limitations on how many bullets in a magazine or any of those things are immaterial. That's none of the government's business, is my opinion. I concede that the background checks is a good idea, and ensuring that people that are getting licensed to have guns is a great idea. But at this point in time, how many criminals that are carrying guns that are doing their crimes are actually licensed? It's amazing that these laws that we have on the books and these laws that we have in the individual states apply to law abiding citizens, but they don't apply to the criminals because they really don't care about the laws. And that's what people need to realize. People on the Hill need to realize this. So, with that in mind, my suggestion would be get rid of all the gun laws, take them all off of the books, the federal and the state laws, allow open carry, and allow law abiding citizens to protect themselves. So that's my opinion of that topic. Anybody's welcome to chime in, or later on, if you want, you can leave a comment, and I'll read your comment and maybe even comment back on it. Um, what are some of the other issues that we're facing? Well, midterms definitely are coming up, and everybody's certainly very worried that there's going to be possible cheating. And that's always something that we've had to deal with through many elections, any elections. A lot of people don't like the machines. I'm not a fan of the machines either. We used to be able to hand count everything, and I think that's something that we need to look back at and realize that that was always the best way. We had results in one night. It wasn't a week long, dragged out. I mean, certainly the mail in ballots from overseas and stuff, but you had the results in a night by hand counting, and it made it a lot simpler and a lot easier. But we also have to ensure that the vote tabulation is correct, the vote count is correct, that everybody is participating. And the way to do that is to be involved. Uh, Fellow keyboard warriors, go spend a month or two in the voting poll areas and become involved. Help watch and make sure that all of these things are taken care of and done properly, because it's up to us Americans. We get to watch all of the votes that are cast and ensure that they are cast correctly and counted correctly. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is for people to get involved. Now, as far as where we go from here, you know, we see a lot of the things that are happening in this country and wonder how it got to this point. If we look through history, we'll see we've come to this crossroads a couple of times. And the best way to handle it is to make it clear we are a Christian nation. We stand on Christian values. Not saying that any of the other values of other religions aren't as good, because they all basically follow the same thing. Killing is wrong, stealing is wrong. This is in all of the religions. We need to realize that we are a nation of law and order, and we need to follow that. Now, there's a couple of topics that we can go off on in different directions with that. Number one, we have the immigration problem. We're having this major, major influx of immigrants that are coming into the United States over the southern border. Now, the previous administration said that they were going to build a wall, and they started doing it, and they made it clear that, you know what, there's legal ways to come into the United States, and if you try and cross illegally, we're just going to send you back home. This administration's view of it is a little bit different, where they stopped the building of the wall, and they've more or less allowed immigrants the knowledge that the border is there. Just cross over it, and we will deal with you from wherever you come from and wherever you cross the border. And it makes that very hard for the men and women on our borders to be able to do their job. So my opinion on that would be simple: finish the wall, give our border security the equipment, the manpower, and the monies they need to protect our borders so that we can be that sovereign country that we want to be. The other issue, let's see, when it comes to all these immigrants that have come into this country, and including DACA and all of those people that are living here, apply to become an American citizen. That's really the best way for you to be in America. Apply to become and learn how to be an American, be a part of the American dream. If you want to be here, you have to follow our rules and our laws. If not, we will find you. I don't want to sound like I'm going to be mean, so let me change from that. So, is there any particular topic anybody would like to talk about as far as my running for Senate, or why I think I'm the best candidate? And yes, by the way, we're outside. I hope you don't mind, but I, I'm a good husband. I've been with my wife for quite a few years, but I made the mistake of setting this up and saying my battery's low. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get that to start charging, because I don't need you to die on me while I'm talking to everybody. Can people hear me okay, by the way? Their chat is open, so if you would just type yes or no, I would appreciate it. Okay, well, that's what is it? There we go. All right, there we go. I think that took care of it. Okay, so are there any particular topics you want to know? Um, let's see. I'm 62. I've been married 3 times. I have kids. I have my own daughter, who now has a daughter, so I'm a grandfather. Very happy for that. Um, my wife has 2 boys, excellent boys. I'm very proud to have been part of their lives. Um, I grew up in southern Florida. I grew up in an area south of Miami called the Redlands. I don't know if many of you are familiar with that, but that was a big farming area. It's definitely been changed over the years, but it it was a beautiful area. I remember, growing up as a kid, being able to ride my bike from from first crack of dawn until the streetlights came on, and that's how I grew up as a kid. We'd go swimming in the canals, and we'd camp out, and I loved Florida. I've always loved Florida. I work in Florida. I've lived here most of my life. I have Been to Texas when I was in the military. I lived in the Carolinas for a little while, and I actually moved up to Maine for 10 years. My real father lived in Maine and invited me and my first wife up there, and that's where I had my daughter. Um, so I learned to pull lobster traps, which is an experience all in its own. But for the majority of my life, I've worked in the construction industry. I've been a superintendent for the last 15, 20 years, running jobs, multi-million dollar jobs in a lot of the big parks here. I live in the Orlando area, so when I speak of the parks, I'm talking about Disney and Universal and SeaWorld and taking care of what they needed. And they had a lot of checks and balances, you might say. There's always somebody watching over what you're doing, ensuring that you're doing it to the standards that they think it needs to be done. So I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Now I've slowed down a lot over the last 5 years because I, like many people, you get into your 60s, you're like, it's time to look at retirement and traveling and spending time and not working anymore. And then things changed. We see millions of people that are unhappy and a government that's not doing anything that we want them to be doing. And that's why I'm standing up, because I think that I and other people need to take that opportunity and step up and take these positions and put the government back on the correct track. So, again, I see I have a couple of people on. So if you'd like to say something, there should be a chat available. I thought I turned it on. I'll just say welcome. If anybody would like to respond, or if you just want to watch and listen, that's perfectly fine. We uh we have a problem with a couple of different areas that I think need to be talked about. Um, this country is made up of a many groups of people, but I think one of the big hurdles, I guess I'd put it as, is the two-party system. It seems to have come to a point now that the two-party system is locking us into this division that if you're a Republican, then you automatically dislike or want nothing to do with all Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, you automatically dislike or want nothing to do with all Republicans. And I think people are missing the underlying part of all of that, which is both Republicans and Democrats are Americans. What is making us feel so divided? I understand that there's a difference in ideologies and there's a difference in directions that we see this country going. But I think if everybody stopped for a minute and looked at it, we're all in this same country. We all have the same rights. We all have the ability to vote, to put in office whomever we think is the proper person. And it doesn't make either side better or worse. The idea is what's best for this country. And this goes back to the original topic I was trying to touch on earlier, which is we need to have open discussions on these things. We can't just automatically follow whatever we're told and say, oh, this is it, and if you don't believe in it, then I want nothing to do with you. So I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think that we have a better chance of saving this country if we all come together than if we turn into some type of a war where we try and wipe out one side or the other, which is ludicrous in a sense. When we open ourselves up to all kinds of things, if we do that, then other countries are going to look at us as weak. Speaking of weak, let me talk about that for a second. I'm going to flip around in subjects since nobody's throwing up any suggestions. So, our military, our military's always been there to protect us and defend us. Right now, we have a lot of military people that are leaving because they're being forced to get the jab and they don't believe that it's the right thing. Now, did we ever have an open discussion about COVID 19 and the good, the bad. I don't think we ever did. I think it was thrust on us that this was how we're going to deal with it, and you have to go along with it, period. I remember even the Supreme Court said, no, you can't mandate these things to other businesses, but this administration does have the right to enforce those mandates on government buildings and government employees, and that includes our military. So that's something that we need to look into. That's one of the things, one of the many things when I get on the Hill that I will be trying to bring out more to the open so that people get a better understanding. Now, have I gotten the shot? No. My family and I refused to get the shot because we didn't see the benefits of it. Have I gotten COVID? Certainly, I've gotten it. Uh, you know what? What I got just reminded me of a really bad flu. Um, I'm a smoker, so and I'm working on quitting. Yes, I know how horrible smoking is, but the idea was it didn't end my life. I'm in my 60s. Excuse me, I got a fly or something. I'm in my 60s, and I've smoked most of my life, and it didn't. I didn't have to go on any breathing apparatus or anything like that. Now, are there people that have had problems? Certainly. And are there people that have died from COVID? Certainly. Have we gotten all the proper numbers on everything that's happened? And were there underlying conditions? And oh my God, there's so many different things behind it that is being kept away from the general public. And it's not for their own good. It's not for our own good. Hi. It's to keep control. It just seems like that's all I'm seeing is a control issue, and that's not the way to run the American government. The American government was always founded on the principle of being open. People could trust us, the government, and know that it had your back. Right now, there's millions of people that don't believe that the government has our back and is doing what's proper. Now, on the other hand of that, other side of that, there are millions of people that do believe the government is doing exactly the right thing. And they're not wrong. And the other side isn't wrong. But the fact that they keep it divided and they don't give us all of the information, that's where the problem lies. We have a right to know these things. We have a right to hear from doctors who say, no, you don't need this. No, it's not as bad. We have a right from doctors who say, oh my God, it is. We have Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx that have told us since the beginning that masks and distancing and isolationism and all of these things were the only recourse to it. I I would like to know the entire thing before I would ever mandate anything or ask the people. We have our two senators right now, both Scott and Rubio, have said no. The government has the right. Now we have a great governor, DeSantis, who finally stepped up and said, you know what, this state says it's enough, and this state is not going to follow along. And that's one of the great things about America is we have 50 states that are sovereign, and they can make their own decisions on these types of things. Now, some states have gone the other way, and they've said, "Oh, we're going to actually increase it. We're going to make it so nobody can go to school, and nobody can go to church, and nobody can leave their house." And I mean, not as bad as that, but you know what I mean. The doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It just means that not everybody has been fully educated on these situations, and we all have that right as Americans to know the truth, to know the full story, to be able to take all of the information and make our own decisions. Let's see, what else can we talk about? We've talked about the shooter, we've talked about the border, we've talked about the virus, we've talked about the energy and this Green New Deal, which I'm 100% against, by the way. Um, what else could we talk about? Anybody have any suggestions? We're up to 3 whole viewers now. So if anybody has any suggestions, if they have any questions they would like to ask me, please chat away. I'm open to anything. Other than that, I'll just run on talking all I can. And by the way, do you know what it takes to become put or to run for office? I should say. This is my first time, so I it's an all new experience for me. I found out that you have to have a business license. You have to have an EIN number, which I have because I have my own small business already. But you have to have an EIN number. You have to register this. There's only a 7 day window with the state to register everything, even if you're registering for federal. Um, there's you can't use a regular FDIC bank. You have to go to like a credit union if you're going to be collecting campaign funds. That just a lot of little nuances which I had no idea about, but I've learned. And just like anything else, that's how we Americans get along is we learn, adapt, and overcome. And that's where we're at. So since nobody's really going to ask any questions, I'm running into the 30-minute mark. I think I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. I want to do this every Wednesday night. I want to bring information. I have things that I want to share. If people share things, that would be great. You can email me at edwardforseante@yahoo.com. Of course, the website is theamericanpatriotmovement.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Telegram. Um, please don't hesitate if you have questions, if you have topics, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about. Please don't hesitate to drop me a line. I'll bring it up. Again, I would like to do this every Wednesday. I would like to see people come and watch and listen and communicate so that we can get these things out in the open and share them with everyone. Again, I thank you for your time and I thank you for coming in and joining me on this. I hope to have many more, and I hope that this one was a good one for everyone. You all have a good evening. God bless America.